Hello. So today I wanted to demonstrate that From the Depths is not all about boats. It's not all about aircraft either. You can make land vehicles. So I've loaded up the Land Designer and I have already made a vehicle. I'm going to load the vehicle now. Let me a moment. So this took me a couple of hours in total to get sorted, and it works. And here it is. This is basically a rig truck. It's got movable wheels, power wheels as well. It has a working engine inside, so a fuel-based engine. Cockpit area is rather spacious, and it's still possible to see out the front. I have actually painted the glass. We have working lights, and as you can see, it's rolling currently. One thing I wish they'd implement in this game is brakes, because there is no brakes, and potentially larger wheels and or suspension. So this particular guide will be obviously demonstrating this in action and showing you how you can make this sort of, not the whole thing, but the design yourself. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get into the truck. So I'm inside. I'm using ship controls, so T and G, forwards and backwards. I've got a set of power wheels and steering wheels, so Y and I are steering. So although we've got exclamation marks against them, they still work. So as you can see, steering works. I'm going to put it in reverse. There we go. So the vehicle is now moving backwards. Now the terrible thing about this particular Land Designer is that it's not very flat. It's a pretty good effort from the developer, but it's not flat enough to create a vehicle that works when they don't have suspension or really large wheels. So I'm going to put this thing into forward mode now. So if I have a look underneath, I've got two sets of wheels on every single set. The rear ones are all power wheels. The front ones have one set of steering and one set of power. So I can now steer. If I steer to the left, the vehicle steers to the left. If I steer to the right, it steers to the right, and so on. So, very simple concept, not that difficult to make, so I'm going to show you how to make it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new vehicle. Now, I would suggest trying to do this as quickly as you can, this first part, because once you've got a block landed on the land, you're actually about 100 metres in the air, if I show you what I mean. We're actually above the sea and the land's been placed above it. Once it hits the land, you can't make it go up above the land again, so you can't really edit it very well. So press B and then caps lock, or whatever your freeze button is, straight away, and it will hold it above the ground without falling down. It's actually a bug. They should set it to a particular height above either land or water, but for some reason it just freezes it in place or freezes it at a certain height above land, water, sorry. So the first things first is to determine the direction. I always determine the direction by using a propeller on the back. This tells me it is orientation forwards. Top right tells me this. So I know that that is the forward direction. So next I'm going to get a couple of blocks. Metal block. Nah, let's use light alloy. A couple of light alloy blocks. So I'm going to only do it in 2 length. Okay. Let's make it a little bit wider. So mirror mode, a little bit wider. Okay, next, light alloy, light alloy, light alloy. So a single block. So this is effectively where your wheels will attach to. You could use barrels, you could use whatever you wanted to connect it to. I'm just using blocks for the minute because it uses the same amount of space. Under air, we have 2 different wheels, wheel power and wheel turning. So we want wheel power and wheel turning in different places. I'm going to put the wheel turning at the front. Now, if you get it where it puts this little block bit on the outside, don't bother turning your arrow around. Go to the opposite side of your vehicle and place it. It's not possible to have the correct orientation like this without having placed it on the right side first. I'm going to do the same again now, but not with turning, but with power wheels. So we now have a couple of sets of power wheels. And lastly, but not least, we require some kind of controller. So I'm going to use a standard vehicle controller and a chair to sit in, just so you don't fall out. So there we go, there's my man. He's in his vehicle. I'm going to drop this back down to the ground now. Let's come out of build mode. So in multiplayer, build mode freeze stays in the air when you come out of build. In single player, when you come out of freeze, oh well, you don't need to come out of freeze. The caps lock button does the same job. So we should now be able to control this vehicle. We still have one issue. We actually don't have any engine power. Doesn't matter what we do, it's not going anywhere. So to correct this, doesn't matter what you use, just remember that each wheel uses about 5 power. Wrong one. Let's go back into build. Let's get me a single battery. Choose a beam, one there. And let's stick an engine on top of it, like so. And there we go. So we now have 4,000 energy total. It's not charging, so we need to put some RTGs on it. Let's put it in the mirror mode. There we go. We've got two chargers connected to the battery. Well, it doesn't matter if they're connected or not. So we now have a large amount of power going into this vehicle. I'm going to wait for it to fully charge. So we're at 3,000 power now. 3,006, 3,008, 4,000. Okay, so we've got full power, and our total engine power is 160. I don't know whether you can see that or not, down the bottom corner. So 160. So on full power mode, with the engines full power, which is what they are now, we're using a massive 20, so that's 4 wheels being used. So as you can see, the vehicle is not very heavy. It has, well, given up the ghost. So this demonstrates that you can't have a super light vehicle without having some kind of weight to hold it down. So I'm going to use lead blocks. Lead blocks are obviously the heaviest, so I'm going to put them here between the 2 sets of wheels on both sides. That should be enough weight to hold it down, but only time will tell. So let's give it another go. Slowly to start. Steer. 0.6 power. Eek. Guys, it's not very easy to steer, I tell you. Full power. There we go. Look at that. We're reaching over 20 meters a second on the land. And there we go. 22.7 meters a second. Maximum speed, and it is completely self-sustained. That's how you make a land vehicle that you can drive using basic components. Let me know what you think. Thanks.